Hello? Okay. Oh. So welcome, graduates, parents, friends, and family to the 2018 graduation ceremony for the Delta Greeley School District. And a special welcome to Representative George Rauscher, who has driven all the way here from the Valley to celebrate with you. Today we celebrate the graduation of a wonderful group of young adults who have met the requirements set forth by the state of Alaska and our Board of Education to earn their high school diploma. One of the definitions of graduate is a mark or a division. This occasion is definitely a mark in the lives of each of these students. Graduation is also referred to as commencement, which is defined as a beginning. Yes, you are all at the beginning of a new phase of your life. This gym is filled with people who have provided you support. The students, to bring you to this point. Parents, grandparents, educators, coaches, and many others. And I would bet that most of the people in this gym will continue to be there in your future to support you along the way. Let's move on with our celebration so that you can commence with the next phase of your life. Mr. Sterling has some special recognitions to provide.
Thank you, Superintendent Jackson. I too would like to thank all of you for coming tonight and showing your support and encouragement for our graduates. Gracias por venir a nuestra graduación. Спасибо, что пришли. Despite this only being my sophomore year at Delta High School, this is my 17th in education. And in those years, I have observed something rather curious. From one year to the next, you see, classes of students can be vastly different from each other, almost as if each class has a personality of its own. For example, last year's seniors were a rowdy bunch. They were defined by the mess in that senior lobby, the ping pong, and the classic rock from Journey. This year's class? Well, they played chess. The senior lobby was mold-free and immaculate, with the exception of the smiling wall tortilla. And they listened to Broadway musicals. My only real issue with them as a class was Ramon, the weird transporting banana who kept showing up everywhere. And so, with each year, as this day approaches, I can't help feel a little melancholy at the departure of a unique group of individuals, and to be honest, slightly nostalgic. Not that I want to return to high school. I mean, who would willingly go back to high school year after year after year? Wait, that's what I've done. I've never really left high school. Quick, get out while you still can. I don't actually feel nostalgic for my own time in high school. My feelings of nostalgia can best be described by the Greek philosopher Heraclitus. I read about him in philosophy class, but you probably saw this quote on a meme. Anyway, what Heraclitus said was this: "No man ever steps in the same river twice. For it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. Today, you are stepping into a river. It will flow past you, around you, and slip away. Each day, that river is different, and each day, you too will be changed. I look at all of you out here today, and I recognize that you are not the same individuals who arrived on our doorstep 13 years ago. Or for some of you, August. You were young, scrappy, and hungry. And you will remain so for a little while yet. So, laugh in the face of sorrow. Start thinking past tomorrow. And don't throw away your shot. Thank you. Each year, the community quietly helps our students get their start in life by awarding scholarships and apprenticeships to our graduates. I want to stop and take a moment to recognize those organizations and individuals who've been so instrumental in helping and supporting our students as they take their first steps beyond high school. Students, please remain standing as I recognize each of you. This year, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers has awarded an apprenticeship to Daniel Sidorenko. The Clearwater Moose Lodge has given 2 scholarships to Harrison Kaiser and Thomas Warren. The women of the Moose have also given a scholarship to Daniel Sidorenko. The Pioneers of Alaska have awarded their scholarship to Ashley Terry. The Delta chapter of the Lions Club is handing out 2 scholarships to Aaron Nucci and Diana Lee Hodge. The Delta Greeley Education Support Professionals Association scholarship this year goes to Ashley Terry. And the recipient of this year's Delta Skating Association scholarship is Thomas Warren. A group that helps us throughout the year, but also takes time to recognize some of our seniors and support them, our own Delta High School Booster Club. This year, the Booster Club is offering 3 scholarships to Kelsey Harris, Anne Marie Klein, and Thomas Warren. I would also like to announce the winners of the Kathy Harrell Memorial Music Scholarship, Thomas Warren and Diana Lee Hodge. Earlier this year, our local American Legion post put on a speech competition, and 2 of our seniors won scholarships and competed at state for their speeches. My thanks to the American Legion, and congratulations to Thomas Warren and Ronnie Graves. In addition to our community organizations and associations, we have a number of businesses that have pledged to help our students in many ways, including hiring them for their first jobs, allowing space for student bake sales, and donating directly to student groups. So please help me in recognizing their efforts. Matt Walker and Delta Concrete are providing Ashley Terry with a scholarship. Dr. Bradley Oliver and Dr. Lisa Freiberg and the Delta Dentist are giving Diana Lee Hodge a scholarship. Ed and Gail Larson of IGA Food Cash are generously donating scholarships to help 5 of our graduates. Please join me in thanking them and congratulating Cameron Williams, Ashley. I should have known. Ashley Terry, Daniel Sidorenko, Diana Lee Hodge, and Thomas Warren. And last but certainly not least, we have 2 new scholarships this year, and I want to give some special recognition to them. First, Debbie Joslin and Debbie Joslin Realty is giving a scholarship to Daniel Sidorenko. Now, before I announce the last scholarship, I want to take a moment to put some perspective on the support offered by this community. And I want the students to see this. If you, in the audience, are a member or employee of any of the organizations or businesses that I have just mentioned, please rise so that we can thank all of you for your support. My last position as principal was in a small village with a population smaller than this room. They used to say it takes a village to raise a child. And looking around, I can see this sentiment holds true for Delta as well. Our final scholarship embodies the selfless nature of our town. Despite everything their family has gone through this year, they have decided to give back directly to our students. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight, but Lindsay was able to hand out this award earlier in the week, and I hope that she is watching on Facebook or YouTube. Please join me in recognizing Lindsay Pinkelman and Wes Pinkelman for providing the Adapting to Adversity Scholarship to Saoirse McPeak. Thank you all. At this time, I would like to invite our class president, Anne Marie Klein, to introduce this year's commencement speaker. Anne Marie.
We started our education as kindergartners, excited to go to school. Then going through the awkward stage of middle school to finally high school graduates. From the very beginning, we couldn't have gone through school without the help and support of our teachers. Our guest speaker tonight has taught our class science since 6th grade and has continued teaching us through high school. It is my pleasure to introduce the guest speaker for the class of 2018, Mr. Dean Lambert.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. Good evening. Good evening, friends, families, community members, school administration, aides, fellow teachers, students, and seniors. Anne Marie asked me to do this speech around the end of January, and I was kind of shocked and horror, and I was honored at the same time. I thought, sure, I can do that for you guys. And I thought about it and kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and I was having trouble finding a theme, a pervasive idea that would carry me through this speech. I thought of movie lines, but great Scott, the seniors just wouldn't understand quotes of the 80s. I thought of song lyrics, but I only listened to Celtic music. So then I thought of an interpretive river dance, but I don't dance. I thought of using a string of convoluted analogies, That would be kind of like making macaroni and cheese while driving to the local IGA, thinking about how many ATPs it would take to photosynthesize your tears into a heterozygotic compound. But that just wouldn't work. I was really struggling with this and finally settled on a subject that I understood: science. Science is everything. The word science comes from the Latin word scientia, which means knowledge. One way to gain knowledge is to conduct an experiment, and that's exactly what happened. Little did I know, and even less of all, the sixth graders of 2011 had entered into a long-term science experiment. There were no permission slips sent home, there was no consent given, no directive from the principal, no collaboration with other teachers. This wasn't your standard run-of-the-mill experiment. The variables were undefined at the time, and the stakes were high. It was an experiment in perseverance and wayfinding. I feel that I am specifically suited for conducting this experiment. In 2012, I was voted the 100% weirdest teacher. One student was quoted, "He loves his bugs." I'm not sure where that comes from, but anyway. The sixth graders at the time learned mainly earth science. We went to Lost Lake Camp and made fire. We discussed the rock cycle and the water cycle, and no one believed me that you have drunk some water that Columbus or Genghis Khan or whomever drank back in the day. I'm sure you have a better understanding of those cycles now. As those natural cycles can take decades and centuries and millennia, the school cycle happens yearly. Soon, the sixth graders left and returned as seventh graders. Life science was on the docket. We talked about the 8 characteristics of life, which later turned to 5 and then sometimes 4. We looked at protists under the microscope. We sucked on lima beans. And then it blew your minds that flowers have both male and female parts. About this time, many of you began running cross country and were turned into little push-up machines, 5 push-ups at a time. Run fast, run far. And time was moving fast. I didn't have you for 8th grade, but I still growled at you as you ambled past my classroom and tried to get you to bring chocolate chip cookies for my birthday. Speaking of which, my birthday's tomorrow. Some of you brought those chocolate chip cookies. Thank you. They were great. And the experiment was moving along. Before I ever said it aloud in class, you turned the page as you moved to high school, and I followed a year later. I noticed that you took to high school like a duck to water. You were differentiating like a stem cell in a young deuterostome. I had to use one analogy, sorry. I noticed that you were able to carry on an intelligent conversation. You were growing up. You asked good questions. You kept me on my chemistry toes, especially when it comes to significant digits. As often happens in life, the time continued to fly by. Now, another checkpoint in this experiment is rapidly approaching, and I'd like to share a few of my observations over the years. I've observed that students are in fact not soluble in hot water, although textbooks, not so much. I've observed that some of you like podcasts, and some of you don't. Speaking of which, I have just heard of a new one, so see me after. I've observed that some labs don't always go as planned. I've learned that it can take 5 or 6 crucibles to combust 10 centimeters of magnesium ribbon. I've observed that 6th graders don't stay as rowdy, overgrown 5th graders for very long. They turn into real people, really, really. I've learned that everyone knows something that you don't. Everyone. I've learned to listen to you and try to understand your perspective. Sometimes I've even been successful. I've learned that you're not a tree. You can change your situation. Maybe not immediately, but you have spent an enormous amount of time learning about your world. Use that information to your advantage. I've learned that you should go outside and look up. This world that you've learned about is a wonderful world. There are so many awe-inspiring phenomena to explore. Do them all. You'll be surprised what you will encounter along the way, and you just might learn something. Those are some of the more poignant bits that I've gathered over the past 7 years. The experiment is far from over, though. You're going to walk across this stage this evening and continue the experiment. You must create your own purpose. You must carve your own path, because no one will live your life for you. The variables are undefined, and the variables were undefined at the beginning of this experiment, and in the next stage, they will be ever-changing, especially when it comes to student loans. You'll never figure out how much you're going to get, and it will never be enough. Just remember that peanut butter and cheese sandwiches are just as much a staple food as ramen, and eating them is a great way to stay fit. The stakes will continue to rise. Some learning curves will be steep, while others will be shallow. I've watched you all grow into wonderful people that have a lot to contribute to our society. Some of you may still be wavering in finding your way, while others have already set the course. Either way, I'm confident that you have the perseverance and tenacity to continue. I'm proud to have been a part of this experiment with you. Remember at the beginning of the speech when I said that science means knowledge? I'm going to give you one last thought that I've come to accept. You are never as smart as you once were. Keep an open mind. Things will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Seniors, if you would please join the choir. Our two student speakers tonight embody that class personality I talked of. They have quietly pushed themselves to the top of their class over the last 4 years, and tonight we recognize them with the salutatorian and valedictorian honors. First, this year's salutatorian, Mr. Daniel Koval. Daniel. Remember to breathe.
Good evening, families, faculty, and graduates, and welcome to the 2018 graduation. Let me just start off by saying, wow, we have finally made it. Now, you're all probably expecting me to give you an inspirational speech about chasing your dreams and shooting for the moon. And even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. But we all know that quote is used to sugarcoat reality. And that reality is that you will not land among the stars at first, but instead be flung into endless dark space where you will not be able to breathe or find a stable footing. And let's face it, the thought of this didn't hit many of us till this morning. Because ever since freshman year, we imagined this day to be glorious and spectacular. But no matter how much we got distracted, it was always there, buried deep in our back of our minds, anchored down to resurface, to remind us that for the first time, we are on our own. That the beginning of our lives did not begin 18 years ago, but it begins the moment you move this cat toy-looking thing across your cap and take your first step into this world, where you'll be told to put your foolish dreams aside and settle for something simple, something that will put food on the table and a roof over your head, and to only think about dreaming when you have poured the foundation underneath yourself. But there will always be people that will doubt you, beat you down, and tell you are worthless. You must learn to overcome that and lean on the crowd, the individuals that have always been there for you, those that give you purpose to dream on. And even though we don't notice, that group consists of more than just your friends and family. That group consists of the ones who come to school at 5 in the morning so that a student can take a test. They are the ones who stand in front of us 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, all to do one thing: give us the competence to chase our dreams, no matter how unrealistic they may be. They dedicated their lives to do one thing: teach us how to build our lives. And on behalf of the student body, I'd like to say thank you. Because every person you see sitting in green and white and black is because of them. Now, there are exceptions, of course. To clarify, I remember taking last year's novels final in Mr. Henderson's room, a 100-question, multiple-choice Scantron test. And when we finished, he had us come up right to him and hand it to him, where he put it through the Scantron machine as we watched. Some of the students who never read a single book that year, like me, but apparently didn't know that Spark Notes existed. Their faces turned white as they heard the rapid tick-tick-tick-tick noise. See how fast I graded that, he said. Well, I can't say he had the best judgment. So I'd like to thank you, Ms. Turnbull, for making English this year more exciting and productive than Scantrons being graded. Mr. Klein, now I know you're probably sitting in that chair, thinking in your own universe, solving differential equations. So I hate to break it to you, but math makes our brains hurt physically. Actually, math became a pain the moment it hooked up with the alphabet. Mr. Adams, it amazes me how well you respond when an experiment goes wrong. Well, that's stupid. And Mr. Lambert. Well, I don't know where to start, so let me simplify it down to two things. You see, the thing is, Mr. Lambert, you can't answer a question with a question. It confuses us, sincerely, the students. However, I would also like to thank the parents And not just my parents, but all the parents, because for the past 18 years, they have put up with all of our crap. I could say that, right? And that doesn't take anything less than super. But most importantly, I'd like to thank my mom for making those sandwiches each morning before school. Because through the combination of our parents and teachers, we have been able to build up our foundation, giving us the knowledge to keep persevering, so that we could finally see that light at the end of the tunnel, even though that light at the end of the tunnel is a freight train labeled midlife crisis. But even if we get completely annihilated, we'll get back up and continue to crawl, to walk, to run forward, because that we have the passion and willpower to do so. Something we did not have when we walked into this building 4 years ago. Now, I don't want to completely bash the freshmen, but it seems as if every year they are seeing the light for the first time after crawling out from under a rock, constantly confused and scrambling. In all honesty, it may be hard to admit, but I think I agree with Mr. Lambert on this one. It seems that more and more of them did evolve from green algae. Now, with all that scrambling and confusion comes complaining. And my favorite time of complaining is every spring that drags state testing into the classrooms. And genuinely, I like them. Kind of wish we had more state tests. Reason is, I developed a solid, tried and true method to get one of the best scores in the class. It goes like this. You lean back in your chair. You put your 4 fingers on 1, 2, 3, 4 along the top of the keyboard. Close your eyes, then just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. Worked like a charm every time. The memories we made. Thinking back, one of the most vivid memories were the van rides during soccer trips, where we tried to figure out each other's darkest secrets, or gas the entire van with multiple bottles of Febreze so that we could choke on the smell of fresh spring flowers rather than someone's deadly body odor. In the end, it is the memories that create unique individuals that you all stand among. Because being different is what makes life not just worth living for, but worth fighting for. Living a life that is progressive will be full of challenges, but in the end, it will be fascinating, making the fight all that worth it to live an interesting life. The moment you walk out that door is the moment your life begins. Yeah. And embrace it, because there's no going back. Set your own standards, because you are your worst enemy and your greatest ally, and only you know how far you're willing to go to get what you want. So don't be limited by the standards that others impose upon you. And most importantly, don't give out advice, because that'll always come back to bite you in the... I can't say that, right? Okay. So here is my advice to you. Live life to the fullest, leaving a footprint in this world so that your legacy will be remembered for generations, because you do not know when it all can end. Now, I'm sure you're all dying for this ceremony to come to an end, so I'm just going to say congratulations, class of 2018. I wish each and every one of you the best. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you, Daniel. Our valedictorian's transcript could be represented with a simple mathematical expression. A to the 49th power. 4 years of nothing but A's. The 2018 valedictorian, Mr. Harrison Kaiser.
Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Woo! Yeah! Okay, settle down. Okay. Good evening, parents, friends, teachers, administrators, and of course, the graduating class of 2018. It is a great honor to deliver this valedictorian address. To all my fellow graduates, as we reach this important milestone in our lives, We did it. We survived. We passed high school. Yes, even Ronnie. As we transfer from being tax deductions to paying taxes, from the free tutorial to a pay-to-play system, from old children to young adults, we should remember and thank the people that have helped us on this journey. I would like to first and foremost thank our parents. Without them, we quite literally wouldn't be here. Thank your parents. I would also like to thank our teachers. They dealt with our attitudes, recognized our potential, and have taught us a lot over the past 4 years in high school. Our math teachers have taught us the quadratic formula, how to graph a line, and the numerous other math skills necessary to pass Mr. Klein's infamous Kleinl. Our science teachers have taught us about the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, and explained the world in ways we still don't understand. Our social studies teachers taught us how to make maps of Alaska. Our English teachers have made us read books we probably wouldn't read, definitely wouldn't read, and taught us not what to think, but how to think. All our teachers have helped us become the people we are today. Thank your teachers. And thank you administrators for making sure we had the resources we needed to succeed. I encourage all the graduates to thank the people who have helped them get here. As a graduating class, we've had a successful 4 years of high school. Many of us have been successful at sports, others in music and the arts, and others still at swallowing hot dogs whole. This high school journey was fun, and even though we never won a class competition, I think as a class we bonded together. Whether it was Aaron's superhero costumes, Thomas playing the guitar, or a combined hate for the freshmen, the world may never know. What we do know is that this critical moment in our lives has been spent here with each other. We have overcome challenges together as we survived the terrible smells that randomly roam the hallway, grown older and matured together, finally realizing that there should be a limit on how much Axe body spray a person could put on, grown smarter together as we attempted to pass biology and algebra too, become more responsible together as we begin to drive and have jobs, and developed our individual identities as we realized who we wanted to become. Many of us have plans after high school. After all, it's our choices that will make us into the people we will become. Many of us will be engineers, electricians, pilots, chefs, nurses, doctors, businessmen and women. Some even want to start their own brand of clothing. Whatever we decide to do with our lives, I encourage you to remember where you came from. For better or for worse, Delta Junction, Alaska is our hometown. A place where our high school memories were made. We should cherish these memories. High school happens only once, and although it can be sad to leave your classmates, remember, this high school journey is over and done. It's time to move on and begin our next phase in life. I am still young, well, rather we are still young, and I have little advice to give, but a very wise man once told me these words. Do whatever you want with your life, but be the best at it. Whatever you do with your life after high school, I challenge you to strive to do the best you can. And remember, wherever you go and whatever you do, remember us, this town, and this high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Harrison. President Maurer, members of the Delta Greeley School Board, Superintendent Jackson, Assistant Superintendent Burr, teachers, staff, parents, relatives, and guests. As principal of the class of 2018, I verify the students of this graduating class seated before you have completed the necessary requirements of the Delta Greeley School District. President Maurer. Thomas James Warren. Nicholas Andrew Sewell. There it is. Diana Lee Duckworth Hodge. Allison Frances Suez. Saoirse Mackenzie McPeak. Dejanique Octasia Bonner. Jesse Ray Heller. Brandon Takchi Smith. Brandon. Nice try. Joshua Yadiel Ortiz Perez. Micah James Helkin. Good job, Micah. Rebecca Simone Spillman. Good job, Becca. Odix Yadiel Reyes Gonzalez. Ronald Lee Calvin Graves. Congratulations, Ronald. Zechariah David Chappelle. That's Hector Alejandro Colon Ramirez. Jamie Yaniel Montez Padilla. Kelsey Marie Harris. Daniel Vladimirovich Koval. Nice job. You got it. Anne Marie Francis Klein. Congratulations. Harrison James Kaiser. Nice job, Harrison. Second row. Kirsten Carol Porter. Savannah Christine Anderson. Nice job. Congratulations. Regina Vladimirovna Gorgovchenko. Callista Wright. Elizabeth Martina Etheridge. Nice job, Beth. Congratulations. Aaron Ezekiel Nucci. Nice job, Aaron. Congratulations. Cameron Ray Williams. Jared Isaiah Hooper. Good job, Jared. Congratulations. Dylan Worth Wellman. Good job, Dylan. Congratulations. Irina Viktorivna Novotarskaya. Congratulations. There we go. Marcus Andreevich Budnik. Congratulations, Marcus. No, not you. Second row. And you guys said we didn't need to practice again, huh? Natalie Jansen. Nice job, Natalie. Angelica Ivanovna Budnik. Congratulations. Daniel Andreevich Sidorenko. Gage Thomas Craig. Congratulations. Autumn Bernadette Caslin. Congratulations. Ashley Marie Terry. Congratulations. Kelsey Renee Henniger.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Adela Dorothy Pfeiffer. Congratulations. Timothy Robert Webb. Declan Patrick Triplett. Declan, congratulations. and Gunnar Allen Hansen. Congratulations, Gunnar.
Graduates, please rise. Turn and face the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the graduating class of 2018.
Please join us in congratulating the class of 2018.